another edition of Dish and Ish. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Damon Benning, old DB.
ODB.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I was ripping and running, trying to make it, but I like this because this is like,
A little deep breath.
yeah, it's crazy. I got back from Indy late Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Friday was a camping day.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday was something, and I can't remember.
Crawford fight.
Yeah.
Was Saturday.
Yep. And I was up well into the 132 range.
Yeah.
Sunday, Micah played at 9, and I had to be in Lincoln by 10.
Mm-hmm.
So got a chance to see him dribble a couple balls off his face. No, I'm just kidding. They actually won. Shot to Lincoln. I was in Lincoln till 3.
Yeah.
And then I shut her down on Sunday.
Yeah.
Took a lot of baby steps in between to get there.
Yeah.
And was basically non-existent, and had to turn right around and be in Lincoln early on Monday because Caleb wanted to go back to practice. They wanted him to come down to the first one, so got back and then started work.
Yeah.
I need if I just had 3 days to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I still would probably do something.
I was going to say, when's the last time you actually did nothing?
But do you know what my something would be? I would probably walk.
Okay.
Or whatever, speed walk, maybe
get a little movement,
couple dumbbells.
Yeah.
And I'd watch a lot of television.
Sure.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't travel. I mean, Mike is in Dallas this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's it's not fun. But I know I just keep telling myself if I do the work on the front end, I'll be better later on.
It'll be easier on the back end.
So my mental health is not good. I drink too much, but other than that, I'm good.
Well, and when's the last time you had 3 days like that?
I haven't.
See, that was.
I had to take vacation from the radio show to go coach.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm working out this deal with Playfly now, who's the media rights company for Husker Network. And, I don't even know, we have to figure out if I'm going to Colorado or not now, just the turnaround.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody's really happy, but we're trying to
work it out.
Yeah. And it's cool because we talked last week. Was it last week? We talked last week about fear and kind of insecurity.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot you took me there. I was pissed for 4 days. No, seriously, I boarded the flight on Wednesday in Indy, and I was still mad at you.
I didn't even do it on purpose.
I know. It's weird. It's weird how you kind of like a little slinky toy got in there.
We just kind of got there. I don't know.
I was like, fuzz, that was exhausting. I'm still tired. Damn that, Ravi. No, so is that funny? This dude just laughs at me in the background, right?
Yeah, nobody can hear me. I'm just laughing.
He's like, that TV is flipping nuts. So I was like, what was the question you asked me?
No, you were talking about how you were still mad at me going to Indy.
Yeah, so even my downtime is not
downtime.
Yeah. But if I just if nobody called or wanted anything, or I didn't have some player that needed something, or just to travel to be traveling, or go get a hotel room or something like that. So I'm working on this deal with Playfly, and you never know how much you're wanted.
Sure.
Until you're willing to walk away from
a deal.
Yeah. We talked about that last week, and I'm just like, hey, you know what? It's Bellevue West. It's a lot of our guys' senior year.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to drive through the middle of the night, I can get to Colorado. I talked to Trev in Indianapolis over dinner. I could take a donor plane, and he's like, yeah, it just seems like a lot of moving parts. And I thought, they just don't want me to do the broadcast. Right?
Yeah.
Again, lack of security. Calls me back 10 minutes later. He's like, look, pay attention to a lot of your social media platforms. I know you got a lot going on. He's like, let's just don't pre-record for. We went to the logistics of Colorado, right? He goes, we can get a replacement if you want. It's ultimately going to be up to you. Let's just work on enjoying this last year, playing the long-term game with us as a network, because we want you on board. Game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's that validation. Right.
Yeah. Total game changer. Right. Big time company. First time they've done it with Nebraska. You never know.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know where their head's at in terms of how they view you.
Yeah. And I slow played this deal the whole time because I'm like, we built this like Excel spreadsheet. These are the games that overlap. This is how I'm going to get here. I mean, shoot, week 1, we're there when we play Minnesota, which is the 31st,
right?
Yeah. I'm thinking week 1 us. We play prep on the 25th.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm thinking next week when they go to Minnesota, I'm like, okay, I'll leave on a Wednesday. I'll be back Thursday night. How many practices will I miss?
Yeah.
Because as a coordinator, right?
That's important.
And I got to talk to my coaches. And listen, you make 10 cents an hour coaching high school football, right?
Yeah, if that.
Radio network's going to obviously pay me, but you have to just figure out like where your priorities.
Well, it's what you care about, right? Like, and not that you don't care about the broadcasting, but I mean, anybody that knows you is your priority is like pouring into kids, right? That's to me.
And I just don't want to let anybody down. Like that's my thing, right?
Yeah. That's your like personal holdup,
right?
you
Because that's
don't want to let the network down,
right?
You don't want to let the kids down. You don't want to let the coaches down.
I was such a screw up for so long. It's like
you overcompensate.
Hell yeah.
You overcompensate by trying not to let anybody down now.
And then it just is an exercise in futility. So now that I can solve everybody else's problems but my own,
you already have the Illinois thing out there too, right? Where you can't do Illinois at all.
Illinois, I'm a no-go.
Right.
We nipped that one in the bud right away. Listen, I tried.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I get
it. Got both ADs.
You were trying to move
Carney,
your game, right?
Wesley. Yep. I tried because I had a little bit of a heads up, right, before it hit the open market, and just couldn't pull it off.
And so it's really interesting that you kind of bring that up because you've got this dynamic of you really want to obviously you care about Nebraska football and you want to be there for that.
Yeah.
Obviously you care about Westside and being there, but you also have there's a lot of moving pieces there, right? Like it's your son's senior year. Bellevue West is probably the biggest game of the year, one of them for sure. You know, you're a coordinator. You don't want to let your other coaches down. You don't want to let your players down. You probably in the back of your mind, you're like, there's other parents.
It goes back to those insecurities too, because I don't want people to think that I'm getting by just because.
Yeah.
Right. So it's weird. It's hard to explain.
Well, I think I get, and not to take you someplace you don't want to go again.
Oh, but I will.
But well, I mean, you can stop me anytime. you just tell Shane to hit the pause button.
Eating that Fogo de Chao. I'm giving you the red stop sign. Green means bring more food. Red
means stop sign.
Texas Day Brazil if you're eating locally.
I think sometimes you struggle with, and this is a thing that you've talked about with Xavier Betts before, right? How much do people care about you because you're Damon Benning, 2-time national champion, and how much do people care about you because you're Damon Benning, the football coach, the person, the husband, the father?
Real talk.
And those are really difficult, right? And that's something that most of us don't have to deal with because we don't have. Like, I think that's one of the reasons you like me is because I think the fact that you played for Nebraska is the least interesting thing about you.
And you know what? We don't.
I've never talked to you.
We don't ever talk about it.
I've literally never talked to you about your playing.
We don't ever talk about it. So
only in the context of like, hey, can you give me some frame of reference for how things were done?
Yeah, totally.
So that I can understand what's happening now. But I think that's one of the things why we get along is because like I watched you when I was a kid. Like I watched those teams when I was a kid, and like it doesn't even register to me that you and that person are the same person.
So
you know what I mean?
Hey, you know the funny thing is, emotionally and spiritually, they're not.
Right. Sure.
But
I totally get that.
So and the weird thing is I spent probably 1999 till like I knew my first marriage was in trouble, like 2008.
Sure.
Being all these different things, and none of them were who I really was because I was so quick to want to make sure that you understood this wasn't just about sports.
Sure.
I don't want to. If you don't bring up sports, I'm not talking about sports.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's weird. I sought all this validation from these other things.
You almost overcorrected.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
And that's, I mean, honestly, that's where
isn't that tough?
That's a fantastic. That's exactly why that stretch in my life was such chaos.
Well, because
I had no center lane.
Right.
Right. It was like,
and I've had a very similar experience, obviously with different things, but when you are fighting against the core of who you are, and you're either trying to be something else or trying to prove you're something else, and you're not okay with the fact that like this is who I am, then you're going to be under this constant tension and chaos. For me, it was anxiety. That was the root of a ton of my anxiety, was trying to be other things than who I was. And so, yeah, if you know deep down who you are and you're constantly trying to be something else, like that causes a ton of anxiety, as opposed to where you're just like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Like, I care what other people think, but I also don't care enough to change who I am.
Isn't that tough though? I mean, in a relationship, when sports do happen, things are live, news stuff comes out live, events are live, and stuff happens. Isn't part of the relationship being able to have that where you can express something like naturally like that you want to express right away? You know, like Coach Frost gets fired, and you want to, and you just happen to be around the wife. In the sports, you want to say something about it because it's just natural. That's tough. That's really tough.
It's hard, right? But like that's why I pick and choose who I spend time around very, very carefully.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I'm watching the fight the other night, and like I said, probably 8 words the whole night.
Sure.
Right. We're out at wherever we were, Papio bar or whatever. We didn't really talk about and listen, I love sports.
Yeah,
I do. But I have to know like that the people that I'm around at some point are going to look out just in case it's not a sports thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember, this is weird. Like, I remember being in like high school and middle school, and there weren't a ton of people that like looked like me that were doing the things that I was doing with like sports organizations, because at that time I was in West Omaha, right?
Yeah.
90th and Fort.
Yeah. Northwest Omaha, 90th and Fort.
West Omaha. And I was like, man, if I couldn't perform, if I wasn't good at something, what is it still cool if I come to your house?
Right.
Like can I eat your fish sticks?
Like, is it still cool that I'm around?
Right. And, because I'm so young, I don't know that I don't really recognize what my dad's doing in the community. I don't really recognize how to take self-inventory. I don't really understand value, self-worth.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I'm just a little kid, like going along to get along.
And you gravitate towards what you're good at.
Yeah. And so I just was like, God, is this always going to be about sports? Like, I'm really smart.
Yeah.
Especially as a kid. Like, I was not so much now, but
high achiever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, I remember sometimes it was like, I'll pretend that I'm not that smart until I have to be smart, just so I can fit in with all the other people that aren't necessarily like me, but like me, right? Or I'll be less funny, or I'll be this, or I'll be that. So I spent
yourself down.
So I spent all this time performing. And when it came down to it, you have a kiddo, you're married, and you have to have some substance and some staying power. And I was like, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, gas tank was on.
Well, yeah, because if you're always performing, you run out of gas in a hurry.
And I didn't know, like what's my baseline?
Right. Well, that's the other thing too, right?
Like, can somebody help me? Like, who am I?
If you spend so long performing, you lose track of who you actually
the reality
are.
of myself, which is there's 3 things that have stemmed from that. One of my favorite lines, Method Man, Ghostface Killer, all that I've got is you. And there's yes, sir. At the very end, Ghostface Killer is going through this little talk. He's like, He goes, if you don't know where you come from, you're never going to make it to where you're going. You've lost the reality of yourself.
Yeah.
Always stuck with me.
100%.
Because I'm not getting off of center again.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you ask me, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Right? Like
if you care enough to ask.
Yeah, which is funny. I always laugh at people. They're like, "Oh, cryptic DB." Listen, not just because it's my business doesn't make it your business.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you enough of what you need to know. Shut the hell up and listen to what I'm saying. I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you enough bird clues. I'll
Yeah.
give you enough bird clumps. Oh, cryptic DB, because I won't spell it out for you.
Yeah.
You know, GTHO with that. Like, like just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. If you need to be spoon fed, I'm probably not your guy when it comes to like the guts of it. But I'll tell you enough.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is I'm prepared. Like you can hurt my feelings. I still just want to know.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
So those are the three things that have kind of.
Just tell me where I stand.
Yep.
Wherever that is.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And give me where I need to be, even if you're gonna
even if it's gonna sting a little.
Yeah.
To find out.
Because I lived 8-9 years guessing.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. And I'm not doing that again. I'm just not.
100%.
I'm just not.
Again, this is not where I intended for this to go at all. I do want to get back to. Let's go back to the Crawford fight.
Okay.
Because, I'm watching that.
One of the reasons why I'm so drawn to Terrence.
Well,
do you want to know why?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Because he's all those things that I aspired to be at a similar age.
Okay.
He's at a critical juncture in his early 30s when he was going through this, where he had so much resolve. He didn't care how he talked, how he typed, how he texted, who he was marketing for, who he wasn't marketing for, if he was leaving money on the table, if he wasn't leaving money on the table. Whoever he was, you knew exactly where you stood. And even overseeing his foundation young, I was like, ooh, you got it. You're not going to be some leaf blowing in the wind like my
easily swayed by different people around him.
Yeah, and I used to think he was stubborn.
There probably is an element of stubbornness there.
But I just like I said the other day, I call it now determination.
Yeah, it's not always a. People assume stubborn is a negative thing.
Yeah, I'm like,
it's context.
I'm like, bud, you don't want to move your inventory to online. Like, why do you want to keep the inventory in the building?
Yeah,
you can't produce it fast enough. Like, well, I don't want to carry the overhead, and I want to know where my money's going. I'm like, I'm just telling you, like, instead of 10 in 20 days, you can sell 10 in 20 hours, and we can move it. Now, the overhead, and I want to make sure that X percent of this dollar goes here. I want 90 cents on the dollar. I don't want to, and I'm just like, TB, like the volume though, the volume, it'll even out, man. I want to be in control. Okay. And he's done it his way. Well, so and I can appreciate that.
And I can, there's a difference between not knowing and doing something because you don't know. And it seems very clear, like in that example, he's weighed the differences, right?
Oh, yeah.
He knows, hey, if I do this, maybe I can make a little more up front, or I can make a little more long term. But if I do this, I know it gives me this benefits. I know where my money is. I get more, cents per dollar, that kind of thing. It's like, as long as you know both and you're not making a decision out of ignorance, like, go for it. Like, make your decision, which I appreciate about him. The other thing, I don't know.
I remember trying to get Wi-Fi installed in his building. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, no.
So there were two things that he wanted early on.
Yeah.
He wanted Wi-Fi in the gym.
Yeah.
And he wanted, this is crazy, but this is way behind the scenes. He wanted pest control.
Oh, okay.
Because the doors didn't all the way shut.
Sure.
Sometimes they would get mice. Sometimes
it's like an optics thing, right? If somebody sees a mice in your space, like, they assume certain things about,
and he had these visions.
Whether it's your fault or not.
This is like 6-7 years ago. So we're talking about putting wrestling mats in. He wanted to patch some stuff in the roof, and so we're trying to we're just doing things, right? And I remember I was like, hey, I got some guys. I think they'll take care of you. They'll come out and bid. We ended up going with Pratt Pest Control. They to this day they do his
stuff.
Oh yeah. So But in his mind is, yeah, this is my desired outcome. This is what I want, but it has to meet these qualifications.
Sure.
So he's going to put them through the ringer first. Hey, what are your hours? Who else do you serve?
He sounds like my dad.
Are you comfortable with this? Are you cool with being here? He's like sizing you up. Like, could I give you a key to my bill?
Yeah, 100%.
He's not just going to go along to get along. It still has to meet his functional criteria, and I'll always appreciate that.
He sounds a lot like my dad. My dad will do that. Like, whenever I have to make a big purchase, I usually bring my dad along because he will ask those questions that I don't even think to answer or to ask. Like, when I had to do my HVAC a couple years ago, and I was just ready to sign up with whoever could get there the fastest, right?
Because that's a guy that's double income, no kids.
Well, it was like
that's that guy.
It was also like 102 degrees in my house, like
and
outside.
You're trying to keep it pushing.
I'm trying to like keep going. I've got like animals and stuff to make sure that they're staying cool. It's like pushing 90 degrees in my house, and so I'm trying to figure all this out. And my dad's like, "Hey, let me come over. I will call these people."
Yeah.
So he literally had like a conference at my dining room table with 3 or 4 different HVAC companies. And he's like, okay, what are you providing? What's your time frame?
Is that how he typically does business?
Yes.
Okay.
He gets all the information, and it drives me crazy sometimes because I was like, Dad, I need this done. And so I told him, I was like, listen, you can go through whatever process you want, but we are agreeing to have someone come out before anyone leaves here. I was like, I don't care what process you go besides that.
How miserable were you?
That was so miserable because I don't do well with like hot in the house.
Okay.
I'm okay with hot outside. I don't do well hot in the house. And so we're going through this process. I was like, I don't care what your process is. And after he picks one, he's going to give him the runaround on how we pay for it too. Because it's not that he doesn't have money.
Yeah.
It's because he wants his money to go as far as he possibly can. Right. He could pay for it in cash, but he's like, well, why don't you just give me 0% financing so I don't take $12,000 out of my pocket today?
Hey, you know what's funny? See, that's conviction.
Yeah.
Right. So and I know we're going to go back to the Crawford fight. That's why I appreciate. So there's 2 things that are going to come out of this. We just did the deal with our guy Matt DeMarinis. With T Boone. Right. I'm a big Tony Boone fan. Sometimes T Boone is too tough or too rigid for his peers because he has conviction.
Sure.
Right. There's a certain amount of resolve. Some people call it combative. If you're secure in who you are, you'll be fine with TB, right? Because he's very bright. Bud was mad at Tony, and Tony knows. We don't talk about it a ton, but I think Tony is well aware of this. Bud was mad at Tony for a couple of things that he wrote in a piece, and he kind of iced TB for a while.
Yeah,
right. It was a little friction, and it was kind of sad because Tony was one of those guys that was kind of in it from the get-go.
He's been on
he
board
isn't like, he isn't one of these Johnny-come-latelys, right? And he wanted the best for Bud. He just, they agreed to disagree. They both stayed with it. Terrence ended up coming around. TB wasn't he didn't turtle up and was like, no, I'm not. He's like, I'm going to do the best I can with the information you give me. You may be giving some other guys a little more because they're your buddies right now, but I'm going to hang in there through thick and thin. And guess who Terrence will holler at now?
Tony Boone.
Holler at Tony.
It's
just, they're just those things that I admire in other people that I want or I'm trying to own in on for myself. Right.
Absolutely. And it, to go back to the Crawford thing, it kind of goes, that's how this fight came to be in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was with Top Rank, right? They couldn't make it happen. So he goes out, ends up being independent.
Pretty much. He was a free agent.
I mean,
did the pay-per-view for Black Sports.
Yes, but he wasn't really.
It was Zab Judah. Yeah, he made a one-time deal as a free agent for you to broker a fight, give him this cut, and he'll assess where it was.
And that's kind of what happened with PBC in this fight. He goes
out again,
and he's like, hey, I'm a free agent. I'm an independent contractor. What can you bring to the table? Because I think Bud realized to get the fights that he wanted, he had to detach himself from the security blanket of a big-time promoter.
Yep.
Any promoter in the game would kill to have Bud Crawford on their roster.
Reminds me a lot of Bernard Hopkins in that.
Yeah.
Which is why I used to get mad at some of Terrence's critics that accused him of like being in bed with Bob Arum. And I was like, he doesn't love Bob Arum. Bob Arum was a necessary evil.
that was an ends justify the means at the time.
Yeah.
And then when
it came time to re-up,
when the ends were no longer there that he wanted,
he's like, yeah, I'm good.
He's like, all right, we're going to do it my way now.
I'm good.
And especially at this point in his career, I mean, I don't know how much longer he's going to fight. I would guess not terribly much longer, but who knows, right? Doesn't have really anything left to prove as a fighter.
He does. The only thing that because he loves competing and he loves fighting.
That's the thing.
So I don't know what he's going to do if he's not in the ring. I mean, he'll make life miserable for the rest of us competing at like weird stuff.
Be like a Michael Jordan thing, right? Where the dude could not stop competing. But that's why he kept coming back.
But the one thing that he enjoys doing, that dude loves being a dad. So
sure, yeah.
If he could like follow his kids around, like 80% of his social media posts
is like kids wrestling
are about his kids.
Yeah. Like I know more about like youth wrestling from Terrence Crawford's page than I do from anything else.
You should have seen what it took to lay the mat in his gym. Like it just has never been easy. Even when I was fundraising or trying to fundraise for his gym and his foundation, he was very quick to let me know what personal money he was willing to invest versus public money. And he let me know that, and the board also let me know that right away, right? It wasn't like,
which is good.
Yeah, right. Don't think to yourself, well, if he wants it, why can't he just pay for it? Right. It doesn't work like that that's not how other people kept their money.
Well,
other people got their money by spending other people's money.
That's not how foundations
And it's
work.
not how I was just getting ready to say that.
It's not. That's not what a
That
foundation
is not how foundations work.
Like if he just wanted to own a gym and run a gym, he could use all his own money.
I remember getting this was early, not so much later, but getting some initial pushback like, wait a minute, this guy just fought for, after taxes, he's going to clear $990K for that last fight. And we're talking about, $3,800 for 7 monitors and some keyboards. I was like, he wants a nutrition store and this, that, and the other, and teach kids how to, it was just like, folks just didn't understand, but it's just.
Well, people are really quick to spend other people's money too.
How he thinks, regardless of what you think about his delivery, how he thinks is exactly how he fights. He's going to do it his way after figuring it out alone. I remember I had to get some he's got some property, and he wanted some tree removals because it's on some power lines, and there's something that he wants to do with this strip of property. And so we went out and got all these bids, and it's a lot. I mean, you're talking about 55, 60K.
Yeah, sure.
For some of the removal.
Some of that tree removal stuff gets.
And it is on some power lines, especially if I told you where the area was. And he was like, no, let's wait on that. I'm not in a hurry. I own the property. We'll see what happens when the demand in the market comes down.
Sure.
I'm like, but let's see what no, not right now.
Yeah.
Let's just wait. And it's things like that I don't think a lot of folks are privy to, like when they watch him and they see he's extremely giving.
Well, he's patient.
Very.
You can be when you have
man,
and that goes back to the way he fights and the way he's doing his business, right?
That is an amazing word.
Because when you have
for Bud Crawford,
when you have conviction, you can afford to be patient.
He is very. Look how long he waited for this fight.
Not just this fight, but like look at individual fights. Look how long he waits sometimes. Obviously, didn't happen.
Dude, he won the championship on a humbug being a fill-in. How'd that turn out for the belt holder?
Not great.
You ain't never seen that belt again.
Ain't nobody seen those belts again.
Hey, you mean I can fly this guy in to come fight me on my? Oh yeah, fly him in. You
misunderstood the assignment.
Yeah, I took an L.
Well, so like it's when you have conviction and you know the steps in the process to get to your end goal, a lot of times you can afford to be patient.
Yeah.
Because if you know, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, it's going to take A, B, and C to get there, but I don't have to be there until this point in time, or I don't even have necessarily a deadline to be there. You can afford to be patient, and that's something that a lot of people don't have the fortitude, the determination, the stubbornness.
I like all those adjectives
to see that through, because people are impatient. You see his patience not only in the way he's handled his career, but the way he handles individual fights. You know how uncomfortable so many fighters get if they know they lost the first 4 rounds, which Crawford did like routinely before he just decided to whoop Spence up early.
Yeah.
But routinely.
And even in the first round.
Yeah.
His offensive output after the initial
like a little flurry.
45 seconds was very minimal.
Yeah.
Do you know what he's doing?
He's figuring it out.
He's calculating.
He's collecting data. Yeah. That's what we like to call it, right?
He let you bank one. Yeah, no, he had to protect himself. But there was a stretch after about the minute mark in the first round where he's like, okay, that was all just because I'm not going to let you push me around.
Yeah. You don't want to get their confidence up too high,
but
so you fight back a little bit.
I'm still figuring this out on the fly. And he did it immediately with the turnaround in the second round.
It's really incredible to see the patience pay off, the conviction pay off, the determination pay off, whether it's outside the ring with his foundation, with the business opportunity he's got, whether it's inside the ring, whether it's waiting that long to fight Spence because he knew that would be the validation that he needed. And now we go from, okay, is he the pound for pound king to where does he stand all time?
So when you're watching that thing, are you looking at historical content real time?
As I'm seeing, like after Spence is battered and like after the 4th round and like the doctor comes out as soon as he gets up off the stool.
Were you not wondering what was going on there?
I thought so. I assumed that the ref asked him to be checked on, which is not a great sign after 4 rounds.
Did you want to see him like do some battery tests or?
I don't know.
It seemed like just a conversation.
Yeah,
maybe I'm misremembering
exactly what he did.
Yeah,
but I assumed that it was the ref was concerned about Spence. But as I'm seeing that, right, I'm seeing Spence look battered after 4 rounds, and certainly by the 7th where he gets the second knockdown, I was like, okay, this is going to go as an all-time performance, and all of a sudden, we're going to have to start talking about where does Bud fit all-time? Where does he fit in the all-time welterweights? Where does he fit all-time in the boxing game? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to have seen a ton of stuff like this before. He's fought everyone that would dare to step in the ring with him, and he's bludgeoned them.
You were how amazed were you that at this age was arguably his most complete fight?
He's looked better every single time I've seen him. Like
you could make the case.
I really
Porter. People will look at Spence. Porter was his most impressive fight,
which I think that one we watched together.
We did. We were at the Pisons,
and I was just like, "Holy cow!" I didn't expect him to do that to Porter. I had talked to Al Bernstein before the fight, and he goes, "This is a clear step."
Porter hadn't touched canvas either.
This was a clear step up in competition for Crawford. He still liked Crawford, but he's like, "It's a clear step up." Every time he's fought in the welterweight division, they're like, "It's a clear step up in competition. We'll see how it goes." And he's stopped every single one of them, and he's looked better every time. Like, he's looked more dominant every time. Like, that's why I'm having this. That's where I'm having this historical thoughts in my head, right? Because I was like, he's still getting better. Like, I don't know. Like, that was definitely the best of Crawford that we've seen. I don't know if it's the best he has to offer, though. Because every time I thought it was the best he had to offer, he went out and beat it the next time out.
I have no idea. Like,
I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know. Could he go up to 154 and beat people up? I have no idea.
He is pissed at Charlo, so that
let's see it. Let's see it happen.
It's weird, man. He can hold some grudges,
and when he does, it usually doesn't go well for the other person.
he can hold some.
You saw Spence. Spence was trying to play nice, trying to stay on his good side. That didn't work either.
He's calling out Wallow like. Leave the man alone.
Yes, you don't want to have Bud Crawford on your enemy list. That's
let him chill.
That is another episode of Dish and
How much did we get to of what we wanted?
Nothing. None. We got to good Crawford stuff though. Yeah, we didn't get to transfers, we didn't get to gambling. We didn't get to Miles Farmer transferring out. We didn't get to conference realignment. We didn't get to Coach Rule.
I got some questions for you next week.
All right, I'll be here.
They're gonna. of the brevity of guys exiting the program and kind of his stance on things, which one will be the most impactful when you look back on its effects on the program?
Interesting.
Whether it's Wager or Farmer, or
because there's a couple different ways you can take that too.
Oh, for sure, and especially on his delivery and how he told you the information.
Yeah.
Which one do you think was the hardest on him? And which one do you think is, hey, you see what I did to that guy? I'm practicing what I preach.
Yeah.
Do you guys over here see this?
Everybody saw this?
Yeah.
That's a good tease for next week. That's Damon Benning. I'm Ravi Lulla. Shane Schillerberg playing the music way too early, but that's all right. We love him anyway. This has been another episode of Dish and Ish. We'll see you again next week.